You called me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep. My faith will stand, and I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine.
Sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you never fail, and you won't start now. And I will call upon your name, keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Oh, and you are mine. Oh, you are mine. I am yours. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the water, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the water, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When
oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine.
I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like the Spirit wants to call us a little more. Let's jump back to that bridge.
Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the water wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior.
It is in these moments right here that we ask, Lord, that you would just find us, that we can just be deeper and connect with you closer. Don't let the distractions, don't let the TV and the phones and all these little things that can just creep up and just take away our focus from you, from when you may call us and you may lead us and we find ourselves wandering off somewhere else. We want to get out of that boat. We want to walk where you are taking us, Father. So let us feel that. Let us feel this moment in your presence. And I will go where you call me, Father. We will go there. Let our ears and our minds and our hearts be open to the message that you have to speak to us today, God. And we thank you for your presence. In your great name we pray. Amen.
Isn't God good? Yeah, let's give him some praise. All right, you may be seated.
Well, good morning, New Song. My name is Drake.
And I'm Camille, and we'd like to welcome you this morning, whether you're a first-time guest, you're tuning in on our live stream, or you're a regular attendee. We're glad you're all here this morning.
So we're going to, if you would, in the seat pocket in front of you, or if you're in the front seat, they'll be directly under. There's going to be some Connect cards there. If you'd grab those Connect cards, the first one is this blue one. That is if you are a first-time guest. Please fill that out so New Song can better connect with you.
And then the other Connect card is going to be a black Connect card, and this one is for filling out praise reports and prayer requests. And our New Song staff prays and fasts over these cards every Tuesday.
So you'll have some time to fill those out. You can drop those off. The ushers will come by and you can put them in the offering baskets there. If you don't have time, you can definitely put them at the end of the service. There's 2 black drop boxes at either exit of the stage.
And if you need prayer during the week, feel free to go to our website, newsongbismarck.com, and click on the Connect button.
The other thing in there is this orange 5 Ways to Give card. Check that out too. There are other areas that you can give to the church, not just by tithing through the envelopes there, but there is also so many more. So check those out. Let's pray over the Connect cards and the offering. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for everyone that came here today. I just ask that you'd bless these tithes and offerings and just bless the Connect cards and just everybody here this service. And I just pray over this in Jesus' name.
Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? Well, we're glad you're here with us to celebrate the goodness of God together. If this is your first time here, a special welcome to you. We have the privilege to have a special guest with us here, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But before we do a couple quick things, I want to give him as much time as we can get here this morning. But if we've been doing a thing here the last couple of weeks where we're going to be giving away an emotional support puppy. And so if you know somebody who would like an emotional support puppy or you yourself, you can go into the gathering place after the service, and they are going to have a place where you can sign up for that. So you can inquire about that if that's something you want to do. It's going to be fun next week. We're going to give it away on stage, so check that out. Also, every noon service, we have somebody from the pulpit group who rotates in, and that's what that whole noon service is for, a platform for people who feel called to preach. And Dan Phillips is going to be speaking this Sunday. Today, yes, it's going to be awesome. So it's great to have him sharing. That's what that whole purpose of that is. Mike and I, we've got to become friends, and he's an incredible man. God has been doing incredible things in his life, and his life is seeing the transformation power of Jesus happen, and so we're super excited to have him with us. Our church vision statement is a church empowering our community to live in Jesus Christ, and Mike embodies that. We're excited about what God has in store for us, which we'll talk more about in the future, and it involves this man here. So with all that said, would you guys all please welcome with me the inventor and CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell.
Hello, everyone. I have this table for a reason. I can't talk without it. No, I can't. No. Okay, this is the only part I'm gonna read, and it's Hebrews 11:1. Faith is assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. So faith is a confidence that the Lord will do what He has promised. It is the absolute conviction that God is not only willing to be able to accomplish all He has pledged to us, regardless of how our circumstances may appear or what obstacles may have to be overcome. And for me, the hardest part was the stubbornness to surrender, which took all my life until February 18, 2017. I'll start at the end. But in my life, I had a lot of miracles that happened. I had a lot of near-death experiences. I hit a tree once when I was 16, and they don't know how I lived through that. They took all the X-rays. My mom says I could hear going. They're reading off all the broken bones and internal injuries, and he's not going to live. And I'm going, Mom, I'm fine. I wanted to say, but I couldn't reach out and talk to her. And they did X-rays when I got. They said we have broken bones, internal injuries, compound fractures. And I got to the I was working in a grocery store then. And they took me, I fell asleep. I was working at a drive-in movie theater and a grocery store. And I fell asleep at the wheel at 5 a.m. coming home from the drive-in and hit that tree. Well, they got to the hospital and they took X-rays of every bone in my body, and they couldn't find anything broken. And my doctor got there and they took X-rays again and couldn't find anything broken. And then I did it for a third time, so I probably got glowed by then. And I walked out of that hospital the next day, and I was working the next day, and the ambulance driver happened to come into the store and see my stepdad, and he goes, did that kid didn't live out by you, did he? And he goes, it's my son, he's right there. And I walked out of produce, and the guy came running up to me, and he grabs my arm, and he goes, this is impossible, I'm saying, Mike, you're freaking me out, I goes, but I didn't, right then I should have said, Jesus is real. But I had stuff happen to me, fell asleep, I told this earlier service, I fell asleep on a motorcycle going skydiving. My motorcycle crashed it. And it was in Minnesota, heading down to Stanton, Minnesota to go skydiving. I crashed the bike. The bike still ran. I slid down the ditch perfectly. I was going about 55 miles an hour. I'd been working the 2 jobs and fell asleep again like I did when I hit the tree. Well, I got down there skydiving, and my parachute didn't open, and I hit the ground. I opened a bubble open. I hit the ground. It was about 40 miles an hour. I was knocked out. I heard the ambulances coming and police, and I had 17 tickets I had just gotten on my motorcycle outrunning the Chaska police, so I had to get out of there before the cop got there and realized I didn't have a driver's license. So I'm kind of coming to like this, and the the jump master says, you didn't dump. He was down with the airplane by then. I said, you don't get it. I'm never coming back. And it was 1978 or whatever, so you could do it. You kind of do what you wanted. I jumped in that bike, and I'm heading down the road, and I passed the cop. And I said, God, if you get me home, I'll never jump out of a motorcycle or ride a motorcycle or jump out of an airplane again. And I never did. And I actually have a picture of that motorcycle in the yard. It kind of fell apart in the yard. I'm going, okay, I get it. But those were like near-death experiences that I had, and I still didn't. It didn't resonate with me that those were miracles, even living through them. And the only time that I would, actually pray to God is usually when I was in jail for DWIs or something. I would say, please get me out of here. But I also had a spirit of unworthiness. I come from a divorced family. I was 7 years old when my parents divorced. I was put into a new school, and I was very shy. Either I showed off, like climbing out of bus windows and jumping, hey, look what I can do. And they would talk about it, people would talk about it, or I couldn't talk to strangers. So, and this was wounds I had. I think a lot of us, we get wounds from childhood or traumas that happen to us, and especially nowadays with families, as divorce is so common. And anyway, what I did find out then is I had that job at the drive-in theater and the grocery store, and I got fired at the grocery store. And he would always do things I didn't like. And I said, he goes, Mike, if you don't like what you get your own company someday. And but when I got fired the last time, they'd always get my job back. And his dad said, Mike, you have a bigger calling. He said, this will be the best day of your life. Look back on it, you'll see it's a good day. And I go, this ain't a good thing. What do you mean? This is a terrible thing. But I look back now, it was meant to be. But anyway, by the time my 5-year reunion came around, everyone had graduated and went to college 4 years, or they had families and everything I wanted. And I felt I was so far behind in life, and it bothered me. And about that time, we get to our 5-year reunion. So I'm telling them about owing the mafia money for football bets and falling out of airplanes and all these things to build up my self-worth, and took all the attention from the people that are going, and longing inside. I'm crying inside, going, all I want is what you guys have. I want this family, and I want this, the white picket fence, so to speak, and then I got into cocaine. I found out with cocaine that I could mask my pains and I could talk to people, and that was it was a very functioning addict, but I actually did back then. I would say, this is what I want, and I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, but I would pray sometimes, especially when I was in jail, and I would go, God, all I want is I want a wife, and I want kids, and I want grandkids, and my prayers were answered in 1987. I got married, 4 kids. I was an entrepreneur. I started a lunch wagon business. My sister flooded a second story of an apartment building with a waterbed, so I cleaned that up, and I said, I'll become a carpet cleaner, And so it was doing these different things, and then I ended up getting buying a bar on consignment, on consignment, I guess is the word, where you buy it and just very little money down, and it was contract for deed is the word. And so we had this bar which was very bad for addicts, but it wasn't a good place. But my nightmare in that bar was because of my feeling that I had inside about myself that I was worthless or unworthy, was if someone came in, it was a stranger, came in my bar, let's say 3 o'clock on a Monday, and I was the only bartender, no one else was in there, no regular, I'd go, oh no. So I'd serve him his drink and say, just let me know if you need anything, and I'd be over here acting like I'm dusting bottles, hoping he would leave, so I didn't have to talk. But I was handed this, what I thought was going to make me happy, this beautiful wife, 4 kids. And we were actually she was always embarrassed. Oh, we have a bar, what do the neighbors think and all this? And well, they can't think too much. They send all their kids over here every day, I'd have tents in the backyard, and it was self-entertainment when I'd go, we'd take our kids, every year we'd go to, whether we had money or not, we'd head to Florida and spend 3 weeks there to go to Disney World and Disneyland, all our Disney World, and there we wouldn't drink or do drugs because it was entertaining. It was something that would fill that gap and it was funny because one time we ran out of money on the trip. We had absolutely no money, and I had a Discover card, and I stuck it in an ATM. I thought, well, maybe I can we had no money for gas even to get back. And here I pressed $300, and this is back when ATMs came out in the 90s or whatever, and it kicked out $300, and that's impossible because I had no credit, no nothing. And the kids are all going, "Do it again, Dad." I said, "Yeah." So 6 times it worked. So I'm going, "Thank you, Lord." We stayed for another week. we didn't go back. They'd raised the limit. I just burned it up. Boom, 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 boom. So that prayer was answered. We want to spend another week, but anyway. So but during that time, there was, I thought we were very functioning addicts, and I thought that was the norm, and I didn't think I was actually. There'd be times where it'd be in the bar after hours, and I would always be telling my friends, hey, we need to quit this. And I would tell them I had read about the end times and when I was in jail in Revelation, of all things to read. And they would quit that day. And 28 people quit. I look back now, quit when I was telling them this stuff and quit. And they would maybe find Jesus or find God or for sure they'd quit doing their drugs or alcohol. And I go, what did I say? I didn't know what I said. And this actually happened. I didn't say this in the first service, but I will now. My uncle, he was the worst alcoholic I had ever seen in my life. He was a chronic alcoholic, a maintenance drinker. Through the night he had to have it. And he had never, ever been sober that I had ever remembered. And he was a guy, when he came to your house, he'd outstay his welcome in about 3 days, but as soon as he left, you'd pray, or you'd go, wow, when's he coming back again? Because he was such a good heart. Addicts have such good hearts, so then it's just they're masked by pain. And anyway, it was a blizzardy night in Fairmont, Minnesota, and I was down deer hunting. And I knew my uncle had came back to town. He was he'd circle the whole United States and go like place to place, but he was staying in Fairmont above this grocery store, and I had been up doing cocaine, and my friends didn't do cocaine, so they're all sleeping, and we're going. The next day we were leaving. We had been deer hunting in Iowa. Well, I walked about a quarter mile to that, went up the steps and get up there, and here's my uncle, and there's this long-haired guy over in the corner, and he I don't even know if he introduced himself. I never heard him say a word. And I'd been into the bathroom. My uncle's drinking, and I'm talking. Whatever I said to him, the next day, he decided he'd go back with me, and he was going to go in the Salvation Army. And I heard that they had a treatment program. So I bring him back, and I go, wow, what did I say to him? The next morning he goes, are you picking me up? I'm going, okay. And so we take him to the Salvation Army, and he goes in there. It's the soberest time of his life. He was in there he was running the front place, and he got out of there, and about a year later, or half a year later, I guess he relapsed, and he died in Wyoming in a hotel room of alcohol poisoning. And at his funeral, this guy, I'm outside, and at his funeral, now I'm still obviously using drugs and stuff, and there was only about 20 of us at the funeral. My dad and I had went outside, and here this guy comes out to me in this suit, and he's all dressed up, and he hugs me, and he says, you saved my life. And I'm going, what are you talking about? And he goes, you don't remember me, do you? And I'm looking at him, I go, no. And he goes, remember a couple of years ago on a blizzardy night, and you came up and talked to your uncle, and I was that guy in the corner. And he said, whatever you said, he said, I quit the next day, and I found out I would have died in 3 weeks. He had something else wrong with him, and he had found Jesus. And now he's telling me this. Now he's like witnessing to me, and I don't even have Jesus yet. And I'm going, what did I say? I go, and I'm grabbing him. I go, I'm going to have a book someday. And I actually said this to him. I said, Sunday I'm going to have some book. And I go, people have been telling me this all my life that they whatever I say, normally you'd say, what a hypocrite. We're on drug. Oh yeah, you hypocrite. Yeah, let's have another one. And this guy said, I don't know what you said, but it sure made sense. And I didn't know what I said. But anyway, he's telling me about how he was now, and I'm just trying to avoid it. And I'm going, I didn't want to hear about it, but I just thought it was, I guess I wanted to hear back whatever I told him so I could become a believer. Tell me what I said, And so this went on until I ended up for a series of events. I had to sell my bars in 2003, and that's about a couple of years prior. I had switched to crack cocaine, which I couldn't function on that. That was, and it was things started taking us down we ended up. I had to sell the bars, but I lost all the equity in the bars by a series of events I couldn't control. And that lost them basically overnight. It was a lot of it was my fault. The last couple of years I was with crack. I wasn't paying attention to the bar, and I wasn't in the bar. I'm at home peeking out windows and paranoia, and anyone that's a crack addict, you're looking through them little holes, So I kind of ignored the business, and my friends, or even my friends, are going, they had seen a complete shift in. And so we sold the bars, but I had just a little bit of money from them. And then God gave me a dream of a pillow. And I had no idea what I was going to do because I didn't have a skill. I was a card counter in blackjack at one time, but I didn't. I've been kicked out of most of the casinos, so that really wasn't an option. And I was thrown through windows, But I took and I had this dream of this pillow, and I said, my pillow, and I wrote it all over the house that one night. Hello? And my daughter, she comes upstairs, and there's these, all you see was my pillow wrote in different ways all over the upstairs. And one of my daughters comes upstairs, she's like 10, she goes, what are you doing? And I go, what are you doing, Dad? And I go, I'm going to invent this pillow. I had this dream. It's going to be called My Pillow. Isn't that a great name? And I don't know what it's going to do yet, but it's going to be called My Pillow. And she grabs her glass of water. She goes, it's really random, Dad. And walks back downstairs. And now we start in, and the kids are going to their mother, when's Dad going to get over this? And he says, it'll be soon. It's just a phase. And now not working and then diving in on this pillow, the money started, from the bar of 13 years, it started to go down to nothing. And pretty soon it took there was foam every day. My one son would come home after school, and I said, now I knew I'd get these prophetic dreams, so I knew this was going to happen. I had like a gift. I would get things, and I knew they were from God. In my life, I'd look at odds, like if you'd see something in your own life that's 1 in a million or 1 in a billion, or you go, wow, this just happened to me. Whether you got out of a bad situation or some little mini miracle happened, you go, this probably never happens to anyone. And people put it off to chance rather than going, this could be, this is a divine thing here that happened. This is a miracle. And if you add them together, it certainly is a miracle. Well, I would... every day, I don't know where I was going with that, but every day we would tear foam in the backyard on the deck, and it'd be foam flying around the neighborhood, and my one son would come home, and I go, come on, Darren, and it was a father-son project. I don't want to make any more pellets. He's like, now he runs my manufacturing 1,000 people. I said, remember when you used to complain about that? But I kept the faith, because when we talk about faith, I knew I'd had that dream, and even though I hadn't surrendered to God, I knew that it was going to happen, and I had such a faith because I would always recognize miracles in my life, and I'm going, wow, that had to be God. And one of these days I'll surrender. Well, that had to be God. One of these days I'll surrender. One of these days, show me more. I got time. I got all the time in the world, And I would procrastinate, but here I knew this dream, and I knew it was going to happen. Well. Finally, we ran out of money, but I had the pillow. And I walked in, and I'm so excited, and I gave some to my friends and family, and actually I'd put more in at the time. I'd filled them full because I always wanted to give more. Well, I didn't realize till one of my drug friends called me up and said, this is the worst pillow I ever slept on my head. You could make 5 pillows out of this. I go, really? And I go, he was the only one that bothered to tell me. Everyone else goes, yeah, that's a really good pillow, Michael. But they wouldn't tell me. They were afraid to break my heart that it was the worst thing they ever slept on. But my buddy, I fly over there, and he doesn't care what he says. He said, this is horrible. And I'm looking, I go, wow. Well, this patented fill that I made, it didn't go flat. And I'm thinking it would break down like other pillows. And that's where I learned that this stuff doesn't go down. So then I took all the pillows I had made, and now I had 100, and it turned into 300. But that's all the money I had left in the world. But I needed those 300. I'm going, wow, that kind of expanded I got 300 pillows. Well, I went into Bed Bath & Beyond and all these places, and I remember going in. I've told this to the CMO at Bed Bath & Beyond. I went into a Bed Bath & Beyond in Bloomington, Minnesota, where I was buying all my pillowcase and stuff to do all my testing. I said, hey, I finally got this pillow. It's the best pillow ever. I had no idea how what it all did, it's going to be great. They're so comfortable. You're going to love it. Blah blah blah. How many you want? Where's your buyer? I was so passionate. He goes, you need to leave. I'm sure I was probably had cocaine, but I acted the same way on cocaine. I'm going, anyway, so about that time, that was here's a side story of that. Well, I won't get into that. I'll go down. That would take up too much time. And anyway, so I didn't get any, I was a complete shutout, but I still had the faith. And I happened to be at my brother-in-law's house, and his brother was there. Well, now they all work now with my pillow. But he said, he happened to be there, and he goes, well, why don't you do a kiosk? And I said, well, how do you spell that? I had no idea what a kiosk was. I don't think I can spell it to this day. And yes, I still say wash, not wash. And I said, if I ever run for office, it's going to be I'm going to put the R back in Washington. But anyway, so I go do this kiosk, and we borrowed money. I borrowed money from I had an ex-bookie that actually he had told me, he said, Mike, if you never bet on football again, I'll borrow you money when you need it sometime. And I used that card, because I was a really bad sports bettor. And that's kind of weird. Your best customer says, hey, would you quit? And I'll borrow you money if you don't bet on, these are bad guys. And so I borrowed this money to do this kiosk. It was like $15,000, and it failed miserably. But I couldn't be there because I couldn't talk to people. And a kiosk, you walk around it like this, and you talk to people. And I was just so shy and so inverted, I couldn't talk to people, and I didn't want to be there on drugs. And so I remember putting a sign up, and it said family owned and operated in a stencil from a store. And I put a little sign on it, and I put another one, chiropractic recommended. And my wife at the time, she goes, how can you say that? I said, I gave it to our chiropractor friend in Chaska. He loves it. It doesn't say chiropractors. And I said, but I happened to be there one day, and I got there, and the one day I tried to sell, I'm going, and people are coming up, and I'm actually in my head going, just walk by, I just didn't want to talk to people. Well, this guy came up, and he bought a pillow, and he said, do you have a business card? And I said, no, I'm all out. I didn't even know what they were, and I write a piece of paper. I said, here's my number, I'm all out. Well, that was the only day I was there, and we had to borrow more money for Christmas presents, and now it gets to be January. But because of my faith, that I've always would believe with these, the things where I'd always come out the other side good. It was like, and I would have, when I did pray, it would always, my prayer would be answered, or it would come out, especially if it was a situation. Obviously, if you're in jail, you're going to get out someday. So, not prison, jail, and but I would, it comes January, and it wasn't even a couple days into January, and the guy called me up, and he goes, it's the guy I gave that one number to, and he goes, are you the guy that invented this pillow in Minnesota here? I said, yeah. He said, this pillow changed my life. He said, this is the best product I've ever used. He said, he was just blown away, and he goes, and I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot in there? No, I didn't know what, home shows and stuff were really. And I said, sure. And now I still had those, I had about 200 and some of those pillows left, 220 left, I guess. And I went into that and I made a booth, and a phenomenon happened. I had a table in front of me then, and I had a sign, and now I'm able to talk to people because they're coming up to me as with an agenda, and I'm telling them about the pillow, and I could, as long as I didn't step out from behind that table, I'd have to be behind this table, and I could do it without being on drugs, and my passion just came through, and then people are coming back to this show and telling me what it changed their life, and my thing was to help people. That was my heart came out. I just could see their eyes that I had changed, and it helped them so much. Well, that led to more home shows, and I go, wow, I can finally support my family. But in my dream, it was a lot bigger than that. But I thought, well, this is good. I can go show to show. And the first state fair I ever did was in Minot, North Dakota that year. And I got up there, and it was awesome. It was very easy. It was like a training ground where I could talk to people and selling, and everybody was, and it was as fast as I could buy pillows, I'd make them again. I would always get blocked on the fabric and getting the fabric because I would spend the money, and you had to buy the fabric in these big rolls, and it would take money I didn't have. So I was selling or giving off pieces of the company to keep going, and then all of a sudden, all this betrayal happened where people were taking my company. And we went to outside money for the first time, and I didn't know anything about corporations, or I was afraid of people with ties, and I don't eat with two forks, and here, so I don't, unless it's chicken with one in each hand, So I took and I lost my track of thought. What's that? Oh, I went to outside money. Thank you. I got ADHD a little bit. So I go to outside money, now my friends, a few of my friends, I had given them stock, and a few of, I just wanted to share. I go, people were doing shows, and I'm giving them, take some stock. And we didn't, we actually had a lawyer, I think, where we had articles of a corporation of a LLC, or something. And I skimped on lawyers and accountants because I didn't have any money. Well, that turned out to be a bad thing. I ended up selling part of the company to these guys, and they were going to bring the company to the next level. I said, well, I need money for fabric and for my patented foam, and I'm going to expand and do all these shows and have other people doing shows, and they're going to do shows. And I had a dream. I had seen myself in an infomercial someday, or doing an infomercial. Well, these guys got to the first board meeting, and they're sitting around, and they go, well, Mike, we're gonna raise 5%. They're telling my cousins and stuff, we're gonna raise the bottom line 5% the fourth quarter of this year, blah blah blah. And I go, I don't know what that means, but that's I plan on being millions of dollars, a huge company, and helping millions of people. And what do you mean you're going to wait a year to even go up 5%? We were at like $100,000 for a year in sales, so you're going to go up $5,000. And I said that, and then my cousin said, she goes, Mike, we should listen to him. And he comes around and he goes, I said, no, I don't want to do that. And he goes, by the way, because I had got to them, so my wife and I would each have an income instead of having to rely on them shows. And it went right into my wound. He says, we know more about business. We're taking the company, and you and your wife are fired. And they, by a thing I had signed, they got the company. And so that was a letdown. But a series of things happened, and they didn't get it right away, or they didn't get it well. To get up to 2007, and this was the spring of 2007, and they were turning the lights out on our house. We were losing our house. We were labeling the pillows in our living room with a magic marker, and I'm in this room doing. Cracked up and trying to figure out and going, okay, how am I getting out of this one? And not praying. I mean, it was basically still having a faith, though, that somehow we're going to get through this. It was a weird confidence. But then I did go out and say, because she said, let's get a labeler for this. Why aren't we getting a labeler for these pillows? And the house was a mess. I mean, the downstairs, everything, we'd just let everything go down, and it wasn't like either one of us. And I said, don't you get it? I said, we lose this, and we're losing everything in 2 weeks. They're taking everything. It's over. Basically, I was upset. Like, why are you worrying about this labeler? And there's bigger things to worry about. Well, that's kind of put her over the edge. She left then for good, and we got divorced 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later. She left in the middle of the night, couldn't take it anymore. It was like a nervous breakdown. And I told her, and that I said, if we can get this, if this is fast, I said we can. I said, if it ever becomes of anything, because we owed everybody. I said, if anything ever comes about, I'll always take care of you and the kids. And she's doing very well. I've fulfilled that promise, but they went through the grace of God. But they. Anyway, so then we lost everything, but they didn't get the company through a miracle. Okay, I don't have time to explain that. We go all the way through to 2008. In the spring of 2008, the company is down to very little. I'm doing crack cocaine downtown Minneapolis, worst part of town. I've been up 14 days, and the drug dealers do an intervention on me, and the three of the biggest dealers, they stand in this room, and I come out, I'm in the worst part of the Minneapolis, and I go, what do you guys know each other? And they go, no, we don't. We've heard of each other. And the one guy goes, Mike's been up for 14 days. He goes, none of you guys sell him anything. And I go, what, is this an intervention? They go, yeah. Well, the one guy leaves, the other guy, it's his house. He kicks him out down to the street to tell anyone not to buy from me. And he goes, how much you have left? I had a couple crack rocks left. I look over, and he's sitting there, and as soon as he went to sleep, I headed down to the streets, and I couldn't buy it anywhere. I come up an hour and a half later, and I said, Ty, what are you doing? He goes, man, he said, you made a promise to us. He says, you keep telling us that this pillow is just a platform for God, and you're going to come back someday and help us all with addictions, and you're going to help us get us out of this this stuff. And he says, we're not going to let you die on us. He goes, what's the matter with you? And he said, give me your phone. He says, I'm taking a picture. You're going to need to remember this, and you're going to remember this book, The Promise You Made. By the way, one of them's a born-again Christian. He would just text me yesterday. He works for me. But here's the picture. Here's that picture. Here's that picture that he took that night in 2008. And then if we go up to later in 2008 in December, my friend came to me. So many bad things happened in 2008, and I still didn't surrender. I'm still doing, God's got this big platform for me, and I was told over and over again confirmations by people that had called me, going, you have a big calling and platform. And I'm going, okay, but I got pains of my own. And in December my friend and I both started doing drugs at the same time, and he was my equal, same age. We went to school with him, and he had been clean and found Jesus 3 years earlier. And he came walking in, and I always look at what are the odds of this. I go, what are the odds that Dick's here now? And Dick comes walking in, and I go, and I knew it was from God. I just look at odds. If this has to be God. He comes walking in, and he goes, I got in prayer to come out here. What are you doing? And I said, well, as long as you're here, I got a few questions for you. I said, is it boring? That was one of the first ones I asked. He goes, no, man, it ain't boring. And we talked to him for about an hour. He planted some seeds there. A month later, on January 16, 2009, I said, okay, I knew that I was going to lose my calling, my platform forever, that God had, that was a calling on my life. We all have callings on our life. But mine was closing. It's like the little dot on the old TVs when we were kids. You turn them back and they come back to life. The little blue dot. Woo, it's back. And well, it didn't come back that bright right away. But I did wake up the next day and I said, God, please free me from these the desire for these drugs and addiction. And I woke up the next day and the desires were gone. And I'm going, wow, okay, let's do this platform. I didn't have the desires. And miracles started happening, and I was, all this favor, and my sister says, here, just pray for favor, and I'm praying for favor, and there were things happening. I'm going, a sake of time, you wouldn't even believe it. I borrowed $30,000 from these guys that these other guys were stealing the company, and I went in, they were all in suits. This is 1 week after I quit. And I said, I want to borrow $30,000. Some guys took my company, and I said, I got to buy this fabric back from them. I'm going to act like I'm their friend, and I'm going to have these home shows I'm going to do, and all my friends are going to do them, and I'll pay you back $40,000. I used to be a crack cocaine addict, and the guy said, well, when did you quit crack? And I said, last Thursday. And 4 of them left the room, but the other 4 gave me the money. So that I'm going, now that's a miracle. And so then, as this went further and further into getting the company back and getting through to 2011, then I had my dream of an infomercial. I went to do it. We went to film it. The producer that was there, I did one read the night before. He said, this is the worst guy I've ever seen. He says, he will never make it on TV. He's the worst. I didn't know he said that. That would have went right into my wound, and I probably wouldn't have even done it. Well, he was kind of right. When we did this, I walked up to the thing, and I had one line. The first line, it took me 9 takes. Then I got behind the table. They threw away the teleprompter, and I just did it naturally. And when this aired October 7, 2011, we went from 5 employees to 540 days. Just, and I knew. And you see, I was always wearing my cross. I would always wear it on the outside because it wasn't a pose for me. I wanted a relationship with Jesus. I just didn't know how to get there. And I knew that miracles were happening in my life. And they go, Mike, you need to be CEO. And I go, why do I want to be CEO? Don't they just steal the money? And I'm going, we need an HR department. I go, that really sounds bad. I go, we're going to make pillows, And so we got real big too fast, and I took it for granted what I had been given. We took in tens of millions of dollars. By the summer of 2014, I was dead broke. We were 2 days from going under. All the employees were gone. We were down to probably 20 of us, and I met this girl named Kendra, and she was a prayer warrior, and she says, you don't have a relationship. She has something I didn't have. I go, what do you have? She goes, I have a relationship with Jesus. You don't have that. You need to surrender. And I'm going, okay, I do believe in God. And I said, I've had miracles. I said, I get prophetic things I get, and, that come from God. And we argued about this over and over again. And she goes, but then I had a vision that we were 2 days ago going under. I had one of my visions that we'd have $8.2 million in the bank by the end of the year. So I had to tell my factory, my board members and my managers, I said, well, I know we're going under in 2 days, but we're going to build another factory with no money, and we're going to have this much money in the bank by the end of the year. So on faith, we basically built Noah's Ark, and with all this money that we kind of, borrowed this and pieced it together. By the end of the year, we had $8.2 million in the bank. We were up by $1,000, but it was amazing, and it was a couple of faith, and they. But for me, I still, even putting that number in our board minutes, and I did it again in 2015, where to the point where our corporate attorney says, Mike, what's this year's number? I said, it doesn't work like that. I said, I'd still be betting football. But still for me, all these miracles happened. Then the company came roaring back, and to where today I have 1,600 employees. It came roaring back. Well, Well, then things started to happen to me where I'm going, this has to be God. And, where other things I'm going in my life, I was so stubborn going, okay, yeah, I lived through that thing and lived through that. You got me out of this, you got me out of that. But I still wasn't fully surrendering. Well, then I was picked out of 12 people at the National Prayer Breakfast to pray with Ben Carson when he was running for president. Just the odds of that were astronomical. And then I had a dream that I was going to meet Donald Trump in a room. This was in 2015. Here's that meeting. He called me up and before the election said, Mike Lindell, I'm a crack addict in his office alone with him before the election. My friends are going, Jesus is real. This is crazy. Mike Lindell is sitting with this president-elect. And then the next year, here I am in the White House with him. I came in, I said, who's sitting here? He said, the president is. He wanted to sit by you. And I have been thrown in. For me, I'm going, wow, Lord, this is true. This calling is bigger than anything I could imagine. And now, then in February 18th of 2017, all these things that led up to that were my friends. They're just going, they've all came to Jesus. And I'm going, okay, this absolutely, I go into this retreat, and I went in there with hope and came out with, this is me at the U.S. Bank Stadium, but I went into this retreat, and I went in with hope that I could have that relationship, and I surrendered in there, and I walking with Jesus. I came out of there. It was like, thank you, finally, Lord, I could have as much passion for you as I did for a pillow. And here, and almost immediately, my friend Nick Hall, he has, it's called the Pulse event, where it was like 50,000 people at U.S. Bank Stadium this spring. And here I told 5-minute testimony, not this long one, but I led 50,000 people in prayer. And if you'd have told me I was doing back then, you would have, and I don't have a table. Look at that, and it was, but I can tell you, my story, for any of you out there, Jesus is real, and I said, you have the faith. The only thing I regret is I wish I would have realized it way back in that first miracle I had when I was probably 10 years old. Who knows, And so I guess I'll end it on that. I guess one of my favorite Proverbs is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understandings. Acknowledge him in every way, and he will guide your paths, because I was going down some bad ones. Amen.
How many churches have you spoken?
By the way, this is only the second church that I've ever spoken. I did my church in Living Word in Plymouth, Minnesota. And I did that this last spring. But the first time I ever spoke, I'll say this real quick, was over in India. It was a year ago, and I was over there, and I was there for my foundation. The chief minister was there, and half the group, they did, I don't know if they spoke English. There was a lot of Hindus, and the other half, there was about 400 people, and I don't even know why they wanted me to speak. Well, they heard I knew something about the Eagles and Prince. At the end I spoke for 45 minutes. I thought, I'm never going to see him again. I can say whatever, right? The guy comes up to me and goes, you are the only guy I know that can talk about Eagles, Prince, Donald Trump, crack cocaine, and Jesus, all in same speech.
This has been an incredible weekend. I have heard unbelievable stories, and God has just got an incredible plan. Tell us real quick about this mentoring and.
Yeah. So when I told you about my friend that came to me in December of that year, he was my equal. I had been to treatment centers before, secular treatment centers where they tell you how bad you are and how much money you spent. You go out of there with more shame than you came in. Or the counselor has a PhD in therapy or something, and he's never been where I've been. Well, an addict that's out there, what I'm setting up it'll be the Lindell Recovery Network, and what I've done is taken my platform I'm going to send people there when my book comes out. All the money's going to go to support this. Well, what it does is I'm getting hundreds of thousands of stories like mine of hope, and they're going to be on video. So now if you're at home and you're an addict and you put in your age and your addiction, I'm a 22-year-old opiate addict. Now, all these stories, just like you, are going to give you hope that come down of how they made it. And these stories, these stories are going to go, well, where did you get those stories? I got them from all the faith-based treatment centers like Salvation Army, Teen Challenge, Union Gospels. It's got one thing in common, Jesus. And now the addict's going to see this hope. He's going to see these seeds of hope. And over here is all the centers. And I'm going to be his little tour guide going, okay, now you go right over here to the right side of your page here and pick out a center. This one's for you. And now when he doesn't go that day, I'm going to go, hey, you're back again. Get over here. Here's where you go. These are your choices. They don't get any other choices. And then when they come out of there, we're going to have an app. It's going to be a mentor app where all these mentors are going to be paid helping the ones come out of these centers. It's going to be one of the biggest employers. We're going to take the addiction crisis and eliminate it in the United States.
So now we know what God has had up his sleeve the whole time, right?
To go.
Would you guys extend your hand? We want to pray for Mike here. God, we just thank you so much for this man that stands before us that is a life transformed by the power of Jesus. And you've been with him through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And even when he didn't maybe know it, you have been carrying him because you have a call on his life, and we are so excited to be a part of that and to pray for him. Your word teaches us to pray, and so we do. We agree together for him that as he moves forward, that your spirit will go before him, that you will open doors that need to be open, that you will make all the connections with this vision for helping all the addicts that are just in desperate need, Lord. We just pray that you will continually pour out that supernatural favor on him and through him. And Lord, we're just so excited to be a part of it. And Lord, I just pray for everyone in this room, Lord, that we would all hunger and thirst, just as Mike has explained his transformation story, that we would say, I need, if you're here, would you guys just, if you're here and you're like, you know what, I need to surrender. And you have never surrendered, put your hands down for a second, keep your heads bowed and your eyes closed. If you have never surrendered your heart to Jesus and you know it's time, you've been running and you're like, I need to surrender. Jesus has been calling you, reaching out to you, and he has a plan, but you have to surrender. If you're here and you're saying, that's me, I want you to raise your hand. I want to pray with you. Yep, yeah. God, here we are. You see us. You've known us. You know the hair on our head, you know every one of them. You know everything that goes on in our life. And here we are, Lord. We surrender. Let Mike's story of surrender be our story, God. Of your faithfulness, of your plan, that it would unfold for each person according to the way you intended. And we trust it all to you. Lord, all of these connect cards that represent lives, we pray over them that your spirit would just explode into every situation. God, we need you. We're dependent on you. We are broken vessels, but because of who you say we are, because of what Jesus has done on the cross, we are worthy and we receive it. And we thank you for it. And we all agree upon this in the matchless name of Jesus. And everybody said, Amen. Let's thank Mike again. Love you. So Mike will be right down front here if you want to come and say hi. Just an incredible story, and as we leave this place, if you need prayer, every week we say this, there's going to be a prayer team right over here. Don't leave without getting prayer if you need prayer. If you've said yes for the first time today, right over here there's a Next Steps booth. We'll get you a free Bible. We'll help you with some next steps. You can get all this and all the other information on newsongbismarck.com. Listen. God has, if you go to Luke chapter 14, there's a parable Jesus told. And he called his servants to go to the highways and the byways and to bring them in. Just as Mike was brought in, just as you've been brought in. And there's more people to be bringing. Will you join us in this mission to bring them in? Amen. All right. I'm excited to see what happens next. Let's close with our series verse here. Right from the Bible. Here we go. Ready? Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 13:8. Let's give it up for Mike one more time. God bless you guys. Have a great week.